9:10 on this Thursday edition. Let me live on KOWB, and we revert back. It's not Monday, it's Thursday. So it's Thursday with the mayor this month, as she had something come up on her schedule. But I appreciate you adjusting here and coming back in. How are you?
Of course, I'm doing well. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July.
I did. I spent it with my family, and probably rightfully so, since I really won't see them a lot doing baseball this weekend on the road in Cheyenne, traveling back and forth. That's not true. I will get to see them, but just not as much. But fun time. Freedom has a birthday. Another packed crowd out there. Park was really hopping most of yesterday.
It was a great crowd. We had lots of good people come out. I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people that came in from out of town because they loved the event. People that came from Cheyenne and other places in Wyoming that came down, as well as getting to talk to all the Laramie residents that are out.
Well, at least we were able to have fireworks. I mean, it's been so hot and dry. Was there ever a concern about that?
You know, we always watch those kind of conditions to make sure. Luckily, that wasn't a concern yesterday, and we were able to go forward and have a fireworks show. But given the fire that's going on in the county and everything else, we definitely are keeping a close eye on that.
Well, and I know what today, I believe, fire restrictions go in place.
They do. Basically
county-wide,
right.
With the Albany County Fire Warden. I saw that issued kind of late in the day on Tuesday, and so that went into effect this morning, and you got 3 wildfires burning in the Medicine Bow National Forest west of town, and a lot of people talking about the hot, dry conditions, and and then Sarah and I were talking earlier about what 40% of communities and towns in Colorado canceled fireworks because of just how hot and dry it's been down south.
Absolutely. I mean, that is something that you have to keep in mind when you do those fireworks shows. We certainly don't want to make anything worse and start any new fires or create any dangerous conditions. As much as we love our fireworks shows.
Yeah. How much does the city spend on fireworks? Because I've been asked that in the past, and I don't know.
It's right around $10,000 or so that the city puts in as part of the Community Partners Program, and that's been pretty steady since I've been on council. Last few years.
I'm just trying to figure out if we used to spend more. I think there might have been a little bit more, but I think that might have been back in the day when you had the concert and everything was kind of in conjunction with UW right. and things like that. That there might have been more.
That's entirely possible. The fireworks show right now has really been taken on by the city and the group that we work on to put it on. So I think it's scaled down a little bit from what it used to be.
Well, I still enjoyed it last night. I thought it was a good finale. So. But I know that there are always those out there that would like to see more spent or a bigger
right.
show or things like that. And I'm going, no, you got to kind of live within the constraints of the budget a little bit.
That has a huge impact on that, whether we have the dollars or not to do it. And I think that's reflective of why we've spent the same amount of money. It hasn't grown, maybe with other items on the budget. So.
I know, were out at the park yesterday, just like I was. The 6-penny renewal. I know we keep touching on the tax renewals, but these are not new taxes, but you're really emphasizing the 6-penny on the August ballot because sometimes the primary ballots don't necessarily get or draw the voters.
Right.
But I know there's a big push, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that you want to utilize a vast majority of that money to do some road maintenance and streets repairs and all that good stuff, because I know that's probably maybe the biggest topic that comes up right now with the council?
Absolutely it is. There's a huge push from the residents that live here in Laramie to focus on streets, and I think the council has heard that, and that is our #1 focus for the 6-penny tax renewal, is using that revenue for streets and getting some reconstruction done, getting some major maintenance done that we have deferred and not been able to do. And the last specific purpose tax that we passed really focused on the underground utilities, so the water lines, sewer lines, making sure that those their condition got brought up, and so we stopped having water breaks, and those are in good condition now. So this is the opportunity to really put some time and money into our streets.
Now I know there's always things that pop up around town, so now that we're after July 1st, expect to see some more spot kind of repairs to maybe some places that need patches and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the 2nd week of July, so next week, we are scheduled to be out patching all of the small areas that have been left open. So maybe there was some water line work in a street and you have a little tiny gravel patch right now that you've had for, could have been up to 9 months you've had that patch. Our crews will be out doing all of that patching next week. And so as we kind of wrap up July and August, you'll see a few more projects out there.
Gotcha. Speaking of road work, we are inside, the countdown is beginning. We're 11 days away from the new viaduct opening, whether you want to call it the Harney Street Viaduct Project or the Snowy Range Road Bridge Project, whatever it is. Depends upon who you ask or who you talk to, whether it's the city level or the YDOT level. I guess we all have our different names. But July 16th, I'm really curious as to see how this transforms and affects the traffic pattern in town?
Well, that's something we're waiting to see too. We think it's going to be a major east-west connection that'll get utilized. We have a pretty high forecast for daily trips of cars going on there in the next 5 years, so it'll be important to pay attention to it and see how it all comes together.
So I know that there's a ceremony and festivities and things planned for July 16th, and we'll have the first vehicles over the top of the road. I know the Clark Street Bridge will come down. That's also been kind of a topic of conversation, is what to do with that area once it's done. I've heard they should put another pedestrian bridge in there or something along those lines. I know it's torn down, but what are the plans right now that the city's looking at with that?
For those areas, well, it's important to know, we've had a lot of people come forward and ask us, can we keep Clark Street as a pedestrian bridge or maybe as a bicycle path? And unfortunately the answer is we cannot. The structure is not in sound enough condition, even going all the way down to the footers, to be able for us to keep it and use it. We really have to take it completely down. So we don't have any plans right now to do anything over the UP Railroad. However, in that area, on that street section, we are looking at how we can best utilize that very wide section of street right there at Clark to add some parking to the downtown.
Okay.
And transform that to give a few more spots for people, potentially some parking down the middle and some diagonal parking on the sides. It's a pretty wide road, so.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting people bring that up about a bicycle or footbridge for pedestrian traffic, because there's a bridge not too far to the south of that, actually.
There is, and it has been a question of topic of discussion is the Garfield or the pedestrian bridge in Garfield too far away? Is it too inconvenient, right? It would be ideal if we had several options for people to be able to walk and cross, but right now the Hardy Street or Snowy Range Bridge, whatever we want to call it, is going to have and has enhanced pedestrian pathways on it. So now we'll have the pedestrian bridge down on the south side and then the Hardy Street Bridge on the north side. We don't have something kind of in the middle into the heart of downtown, and I think that might be a topic of future discussions coming up. And I also want to add, speaking of pedestrians, WYDOT and the City of Laramie are going to have the new bridge open the Sunday before on July 15th from 4 to 8 p.m. for pedestrian traffic only.
Okay.
So if you want to take a chance to come up and walk across the new bridge and take in the views and bring your family up, we're inviting people to come on up, and because you probably won't get that opportunity again once we open it up to traffic.
Yeah, well, you can, but it's at your own risk, basically. Your own risk. I mean,
it's a little safer way to do this.
You can walk out in the middle of the lanes of traffic without the risk of being hit. Let's just put it that way. 4 to 8 p.m. on July 15th, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Something you learn. It's our Mondays with the Mayor series. Yes, it is a Thursday, but Mayor Summerville had something coming up on Monday, so I appreciate you coming in and adjusting the schedule. So with that, I think about, North 3rd, and obviously that's WYDOT, but North 4th Street, coming from Harney, just more traffic in those areas in particular, how that's going to affect road maintenance in the future, which has got to be studied, I would imagine, pretty carefully. Yeah,
we'll definitely be taking a look at that and keeping a close eye on it. We've made some improvements in those areas recently in the last 5-6 years because of that reason. You'll see that Harney Street between 3rd and 9th, I believe. We widened that out. That's built up in concrete near the section to try to anticipate that increased traffic and increased needs. So,
and I know you said before that from 9th on to maybe 15th and so on is something that you're going to be looking at as well.
Yeah, we certainly are. It's on the schedule for needing some major maintenance and trying to get in there.
Okay. All right. So just a couple of different things here. We're talking a little odds and ends here. Obviously, road construction is big. It continues to be the topic of conversation is paving the streets in West Laramie. That's a never-ending conversation that we always talk about. Where are we at in that, especially in an election year? I know you're running. There's actually a lot of candidates in Ward 1 this year versus Ward 2 or Ward 3. But this is a big election year, and I know that has to be probably the main topic of conversation among the citizens out there in Ward 1.
Well, it certainly is. It's probably the biggest issue and has been for quite some time for residents in Ward 1. And as a Ward 1 council member, I'm always looking for that way forward so that we can bring that infrastructure up to standards. And it's not, the pavement is important, but what's more important in West Laramie is the drainage. and getting a handle on that and providing safe pedestrian ways, especially for the kids. There's a lot of families that live out in Ward 1 around Linford schools, and we need to make sure that we've got good, safe areas for them to walk to the park and walk to school. And
yeah.
So we're looking at that. In fact, this has been a culmination of a lot of discussions since I've been on council in the last 4 years, but we are having that series of work sessions to talk about gravel road conversion and what that looks like. And in fact, we had one last week to talk initially about what kind of standards those roads could be at. And on July 10th, we're going to have the next one to start to talk about revenue options and financing options and what does that look like. And that's a pretty big conversation because that conversation also turns into, we're also tagging onto that the conversation about stormwater and how we make those improvements, and where the gravel conversions really only affect 1st and 2nd Street and a couple of odds and ends on the east side of town, and then West Laramie. The stormwater conversation affects everybody in town. There are multiple areas across town where we really need to make stormwater improvements.
Yeah. You notice it when the big downpours come, and
yes.
then you want to pull your hair out, and then it goes away from your mind for a long time until the next downpour comes.
Right, until it shows up again, and it's something we really have to deal with. And going back to the 6 penny that's on the ballot, I want to make sure everybody knows that the idea to put money into streets is not just for West Laramie. West Laramie is an option, but the streets on the 6 penny is really a citywide street reconstruction,
right.
Really aimed at trying to enhance the transportation system citywide. So.
All right, we're talking with Mayor Andrea Summerville here on Mondays with the Mayor series. I know it's on a Thursday though. Speaking of West Laramie, WyoTech remaining open after their purchase, and the group led by Jim Mathis completed the purchase Monday, so they're open. There was a big push from, it seems like, the council to the Albany County Commissioners, even up to the Governor's Office and Business Council, the Wyoming Business Council, the state level, to keep WyoTech open. Now, kind of temporarily closed as the transition came in, and they opened with a small student body of 12, but how big was that, and what were the conversations you had with folks, especially maybe in the business community, to keep WyoTech going for the city of Laramie?
Well, I think that it's important to recognize all of the partners that jumped in as soon as this conversation started. So I worked pretty hard on behalf of the council to have those conversations with various members of the business community, the education community. We have to thank LCCC for coming in and having this conversation and really providing a pathway to start with when we were trying to figure out what in the world we could do. We have to thank the Wyoming State Legislature for responding to the funding, and of course Governor Meade for helping us see this through and get it going. It is so critical that WyoTech stays open in Laramie. It is a major employer. Not only is it's 50 plus years old, it originates in Laramie, it's really woven into the fabric of our history as a city, but it is a major employer in town. And so it was important for all of those reasons to keep that going.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of folks are pretty happy with the fact that, and you mentioned LCCC, they submitted a proposal, but they didn't want to interfere with any other private sector proposals, right. And so once there was one, they kind of stepped back a little bit, but the group led by Jim Mathis, again, announcing that they opened up officially on Monday with that transition and completing the purchase there. Sarah does have that story at laramie.live.com and on the Laramie Live app, so good to see in that regard. 150th celebration continues. We're right around the corner from Jubilee Days. Officially starts on Saturday. A couple of different events, but more so things pick up the 11th through the 15th, but I don't want to discount Statehood Day, which is always part of the celebration of Jubilee Days on Tuesday the 10th out of the Territorial Park. What's going on in terms of the 150 celebration that we've got involved during Jubilee Days? Because we all heard about, well, there'll be some more things coming up during Jubilee Days. What can you tell us a little bit more about?
Well, we're going to be present during Jubilee Days. In fact, the theme of the parade is celebrating the 150 years of Laramie, so we want to recognize that. So we have a booth with some historical information and some boards and stuff that were brought to us by the Union Pacific Railroad. We'll have those out and available for everybody. Probably one of the biggest things is Governor Meade will be here on Saturday to help us celebrate on July the 14th, to help us celebrate with a proclamation, as well as we're going to do the raffle for the rifle that we have been taking around town and showing everybody. It's a pretty awesome rifle. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Saw that out there at Washington Park yesterday, and the folks were dressed up in the old-time attire, and I was just sitting there going, Wow, it's a hot day for you to be dressed in that attire yesterday. There's no doubt about that. Although obviously it's been warmer this summer. It's supposed to be warmer this weekend. My goodness.
It absolutely has.
Yesterday and today will feel like a break compared to some of the warm. We have a warmer June. There's no doubt. The hot, dry summer, I think they pegged it right.
I think we got that right on the money. You know, we have to thank all the groups again that have been helping with the 150th. Those historical characters. That's an immense amount of work, and they are doing their part and showing up all over town. You know, there's tours out at the cemetery, but they were present for Freedom House birthday. They'll be present for Jubilee Days. It's all part of just a celebration.
Yeah. They'll be present at that Statehood Day on July 10th back out at the Territorial Park, obviously celebrating Statehood Day in Wyoming. And of course, enjoy that on July 10th. That's a Tuesday this year, so 5 days away from that. But again, Jubilee Days, you got the 7th and 8th this weekend with the Kids Horse Show and the Ranch Rodeo. Great time for kind of the local folks. And then Statehood Day followed by a lot of things picking up on the 11th and going through the 15th on that Sunday. So just to look forward to. You and I talked last time, and there are some big public forums coming up. So I want to remind folks in the listening audience when those are coming up, and they start later this month. What are we talking about with these forums? Because I do want to reemphasize folks, you know, if they want to chime in, this is a great way to give you guys some feedback. What are we talking about with these forums coming up that start later this month and kind of dive into August here?
Well, we've got several things going on right now. So the forums certainly about the streets conversation are going on. We want to invite everybody to come in and to talk and to help us kind of narrow down what our options are in terms of revenue and moving forward on that. There will be a WyoTech forum coming up here in the next few months to talk about South 3rd Street again and the possibilities that are out there. So we're going to do that. Of course, the League of Women Voters is having forums again for the elections that are out, and I think they start
tonight.
This week, actually tonight, right?
They start tonight.
They start tonight, and they go on for a few weeks because there are lots of candidates running for lots of offices, which is wonderful, which is great. That's what we want to see. Yeah. So lots of ways.
Yeah, a lot of different things coming up on the agenda. So with that, I think that's pretty much everything. I think we hit on a lot of different topics, odds and ends. I know there's not a lot of big stuff. Obviously, the streets conversation continues to be kind of...
And that's a long conversation. That's a conversation that's going to continue on for the next several months. And we want people to know that just... we had one work session last night. We'll have another one next Tuesday. I think there's 2 or 3 more scheduled. Plus, we'll probably have some public hearings that are set aside just for that. So that's a long, ongoing conversation.